Hey friends. There we go. Hey friends. Thank you for joining me today. Might be a little too big. Go with those two. All right. I'm going to just pop this up on YouTube and make sure everything looks good. There we go. Hi, Susan. Hi, Donna. Good morning, everyone. I'm sorry I have a lot out here because I wanted to show you a couple different things before we get started with this. So just in case you missed, we made these two cards the other day on our live on Facebook. So I found a really cool idea, and I have another stamp set. Actually, I have two other stamp sets you could use this with as well. So these were both made from Oh Snap. Now, again, there aren't dies for this crocodile, unfortunately. It's really, really cute, but it doesn't take too much effort to fussy cut. I actually fussy cut both of these, so we made these two live. So if you want to know how to make these gators, one of them I actually did using the Oso Ombre paper, which is this one. And then this one I actually stamped onto a blended paper that we created ourselves, and then I just fussy cut it. The only thing I'm really probably a little bit more attuned to is the teeth. I do cut those, but the rest of the stuff I just kind of trim it close. So they don't have dies. I really wish they do. But anyway, we made both of these cards. So this one's just a little bit popped up. You can see this was actually a case from the catalog. And then this one I made with a wobbler because everything is better with a wobbler. I think it's so cute. So I kind of had an idea with these palm fronds of a different fun fold card we could make. But I also wanted to show you, I think you could also do this really easily with the kangaroo stamp set. And I'm not going to show you that one, but I did get the stuff out to do it with the flamingo. So I thought those would be, oh, crackers, I just lost a die. I better remember to go in and grab that. So I thought, this is Oh Snap. It's on page 47 of the spring catalog. And then I feel like the other one is right around here as well. The flamingos are here. And the flamingos do have dies, which is great. And then the kangaroos, I think, are a little closer to the front. I really do need to go through and label this so I know where everything is because, oy. I know it's like right near the Valentine stuff, I think. There we go. So there are the kangaroos. They also have dies. And they do have some great cards as well, some great card ideas, especially these little envelopes here, which are super cute. But anyway, let me move this off to the side. So we're going to actually make a kind of a window fold card. So I'm going to do this one with the rectangles. I kind of already was fiddling around with what I was going to do with the flamingo, so I'll show you that in a minute. But this is a pretty simple card to create. I do have my large die because I want to add a little something to this. I'm not really still 100% sure how much, but I want to add something to that. And I'm going to use one of these crocodiles just to make it easier. So if you want to know how to make these, if you don't have the Oso Ombre paper, if you go to my Facebook video from Thursday, you can see how to make these. So I'm going to set these on the side, put him up here too. So I went ahead and did some of this already just because I wanted to be able to do at least 2 samples with this. So I figured I would try to make it easy. So you can get both of these card bases out of 1 full sheet of cardstock. So you do need 1 full sheet. I went with Granny Apple Green. And then for the inside layer, I decided to use a piece of Oso Ombre, which quite honestly, I think you could even use the pink, or the other one is, here, I'll pull it out so you can see it. I don't know which color this is. It might be, I don't know if it's blackberry, but I think you could even use this for the flamingo card just because it has such a nice design. So just in case, that is still free in Celebration. So this piece measures 4 by 5 1/4. And then these two pieces, they are exactly the same. And I already went ahead and scored them. They measure 6 1/4 by 5 1/2. So they're both the same. And then you score it at a 1/2 inch and an inch. So what we're going to do is these are going to actually make one of those open cards where you can let it stand. And we're going to die cut something here in the center. So that's what I thought we would do is I'm going to die cut this rectangle. So I got the stitched rectangles. You could do an oval. The oval, I don't think is going to be quite big enough to give the visual on the picture that you want. And I was just trying to decide which one I think would look better. And I think this would be nice if you wanted a big view. But since I want to try to add in these tranquil leaves, because I think it'll go nicely, I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. So you only need one for this. So I'm just going to kind of see if I can evenly space it visually. Let's see. You could also use the, I can't think what they're called, Ride With Me, maybe it's called. It's the cowboy die. That one has a round arch, which would be really cool for this as well. So I think that looks good. So I'm going to run this through the die cutting machine and move this over. I'll put this through and we're going to cut our hole, and then afterwards we'll cut our palm fronds because I don't exactly know how I want to put them through yet. So I'm going to die cut this. Thank you for sharing. I do appreciate that. Hi, Francine, Rhonda, Linda, Nita, Sherry. Hey, Gwen, how you doing? I hope you're doing well. I still have your envelopes to drop off to you. I'm planning on maybe doing that early tomorrow morning. All right, so this nice part about this too is it will give the stitched look to it, but you don't really necessarily need it. So you could save this for another card. One thing you might want to remember too is you don't want to go through this too many times because it can kind of block out your score lines, but we're okay with this part for now. So I'm just going to set this on the side, and then we're going to decide what we're going to do with this. And I think maybe, what if we do something a little bit darker? So instead of doing Mossy Meadow, I think I'm going to do Shaded Spruce. Oh, and look at this. It already has adhesive sheet on the back, so even better. I don't know if I'm going to be able to fit the whole thing on here, though, because if we look at it, it's a little bit too big. So I'm going to kind of just put, I'm going to do this the best I can. I'm going to bring it from the bottom so it die cuts, and then the end of this is probably going to cut off. So we'll do that. I'm just going to run this through. And you could do it on both sides if you want it. I don't know if it's going to be too much or not. So let me take a look, and then worst case scenario, we can always add another piece to it. So let's see if we pull this out. Kind of pop this through because we do have, oh, it didn't cut quite as well there. Let me put this through one more time and just go backwards. It's kind of nice though when you have the adhesive sheet because you're able to put this right back in. I'm going to feed just this little part through again because it looks like maybe the way I had it lined up, it didn't go through the rollers quite as well. Hi, Karen. No, you haven't missed too much. We're still kind of in the beginning planning stage here. All right, so let's pop this through. And the other thing is, I'm just ripping my paper underneath. The other thing is you could also do this with just layers of white. You can see we have our friend here, so that's going to end up getting cut off. But you could do this with layers of white as well. Let me make sure that's pulled. Yeah, so this part's coming out, so we're good. That's all I really wanted to be sure of. You could do it with sponging. You could do it with white and just sponge it instead. So there are definitely lots of options for this. So let's see what this looks like just as is, because I know it's not going to be too much. So if we have this here, we're going to end up having to cut off that friend part, which is no big deal. I think one will be good for now. You could always cut a little, like a second part up here and just have a little bit hanging down. So let's see if we can fit a little bit from here. Doesn't need to be the full thing. So I'm going to run just this part through, just using up what I have left. I try to, if I have paper to be able to conserve it for that reason, I do try to do that. Especially because it already has adhesive sheet on it, which makes it like a bonus. So, pull this off. and this off. I see some of my demo friends and friends in Texas are at least starting to get a little bit of their power. That looks pretty cool. We can always modify that power back, so that makes me very happy for them. Okay, so here's what we have so far. We have these two pieces. So for this card, you are going to need to fold it, but I kind of want to put this together first just to see how it's going to look. One thing to keep in mind, where is my adhesive mat? There it is. One thing to keep in mind though, because this does have adhesive on the back, it's going to be sticky, so we're going to need to hit that with an anti-static powder tool. So you could either use your embossing buddy, or if you have something different, just to get the stick off so it doesn't stick to this part closed when you mail it. Okay, so just kind of keep that part in mind. And I'm going to go ahead with my snips and just nip this. Let's go right here. That should be good. So that way we get rid of that little word part. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this on while it's flat, and then we'll do our scoring. So if you guys have watched Wendy Cranford lately, she actually shared a video similar to this card style very recently as well. And she used the, I think it's called Ride the Range stamp set, which is one I really, really like. I just don't have 100 ideas for it yet, but that's a great stamp set. So I'm just kind of pressing these. I just want to pull out those little hole pieces. There's only one left that doesn't want to go. Come on. There we go. So I got all the little holes out. So then I'm going to set this. I'm not going to set it right up to the edge just for scoring purposes. I'm just moving it just a little bit. The bottom's okay, but I don't want it to interfere with the score line. So I'm going to just try to press it up just a little bit. I'm pressing it on. These will be like that. And then I'm going to see what, oh, this kind of works out well because they'll be just a little bit. So I'm going to set this up here, and then we'll flip it and do the whole thing with the removing the extra sticky from the back. So this is probably, because this is pretty detailed, the most labor intensive part, because we put the sticky strip on the back. I should say I did. You don't have to if you don't want to. But I do find that it gets all these little pieces out way easier. There we go. So all the pieces are out. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to flip this though, so I can kind of line this up a little bit better. Again, the top is fine if you're going to the top edge, but I want to stick in just a hair from the score line just so it doesn't impede the folding of the card. And this little piece I'm going to break off because that's just not going on there the way I want. So there's that. I'm going to pull this little piece. Okay, so then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the whole thing, and I'm going to just flip this over just to make it easier. I'm going to take the whole thing, get these extra stickies, and then I'm going to just hit this with my embossing buddy. And basically what you're doing is just adding powder so it's not sticky anymore. You could also do this with cornstarch. And then what I'm going to do is, I usually do this anyway. I'll just kind of make sure that I got most of the areas. Okay, so there's that. I'm going to set this over here just for a second. I'm going to wipe this off with my microfiber. And you can always rinse this if you need to, but my towel needs to be washed, so it's a little crazy. And now, nothing's sticking. So you can see nothing sticking. Okay, so let me wipe this just quickly since it's a little powdery back here. People get this card and they'll be like, what is this? What is this white powder back here? So we have the front of our card. We have the inside of our card. So these are going to go together. And so the only thing we have to do is we have to put our piece on the inside. And I picked the blue, and I'm going to go from dark to light. And I'm going to grab my crocodile while I'm at it. Let's see. I'll use the ombre one. So we can add a few things to this as well before we get started. So we can add in the background, we have our watermarks we could add. We could make some fish jumping out. So we just kind of have to build our scene with this part. So if we put our croc here, we could have the fish jumping out back here. Okay, we will do them first. And I want them to be a little dark. So I'm going to go with terracotta. You have them. And we can always add, I'm going to do pretty peacock, a little bit of the water, little splashy marks. We could put them around the bottom here so it looks like he's sitting in. Now, granted, you're not going to see all of this because of the way the window is. So I'm just putting some of this in the background in case it happens to appear. You may not see some of it, so don't get too crazy with it. So we can see like little bits. I'll put another one up here. Kind of like that. That looks good. So I'm going to leave those. And then I'm going to go ahead and add our sentiment to this. So how about if we'll just do sending a big smile? Is that this one? Yep. And then what we can do is we can either stamp this directly, which is fine. We could put it on a piece of white cardstock if we want to trim it out. So just to make it stand out, I'll just do it on a little piece of white, and then we will do like a quick fussy cut. I'm going to go with Bermuda Bay. You could do green if you wanted to, Granny Apple. You could also do black. Just kind of depends. So I'm going to just trim this out. And I'm just going to kind of keep it very straight to the cutting. So it's very rectangular. You have that. And we can pop that up on a dimensional. Okay, so I think that's it because this does have a lot. So I don't want to do too much for this. So let me show you what we're going to do with our card first. I'm going to set this on the side just to make sure it dries. So we have our front and our back. And if these little pieces hanging bother you, you can always trim those parts off as well, okay? So what we're doing is we're going to fold this in and out. And all the measurements will be on, so you don't have to worry about memorizing these. I'll put these on the blog. I did notice, if you guys noticed, I did put a few blog posts up the other day in a row. They were older ones, but they were ones that I just hadn't gotten around to posting the measurements and whatnot. So those are on there. And I know one person gave me their address for the prize. So same thing, I'm folding these in and I'll fold the other ones out. They gave me their address for the prize. So check your winners list there. There are still a few people on the January winners list. Okay, so then this is going to go like this. This is going to go like that. And when we put this together, it is going to fold flat, so you will be able to get that into a regular envelope. So all we're going to do is we're going to put our pieces on here. So I'm going to put this on first, and then we'll figure the rest of it out. So here's one. I'm going to kind of center it a little bit up closer to the top. You could make this just a little bit tighter, so it was a tighter of a fit, but I'm always afraid with these inside things that I'm going to end up making it too big and then it's not going to close. So I went a little smaller. I'm going to put my croc down with liquid glue as well. That way, just in case I need to move him. We have that. Okay. And then this I'm just going to put up on 2 dimensionals. Actually, I could even use a little piece of adhesive sheet. But I'll just use dimensionals because it'll be easier. So I'm going to put 2, and then I'm going to put 2 more on top. I'm just going to peel these off. 1 and 2. So you could put it down here, but I'm just going to kind of anchor it a little bit to the side because I think it's fun, just like that. So one other thing, you do want to have a strong adhesive. However, you do need the ability just in case to be able to move it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put, and I'm going to bring this back in just in case I go over. I'm going to put a little bit of tear and tape, and then I'm going to put some liquid glue just so it's strong, but in case I need to wiggle it into place a little bit, it'll go easily. Go with that. And I'm just pressing that. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pull both of these off. And then I'm just going to do, like I said, just a little, because I just want it to have the place that if I need to move it, this little teeny bead of liquid glue will give me that ability. Okay. So there are those 2. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do my best to line this up. Now, I haven't done this in a while, so we'll see how this first one goes. Maybe I'll just do one at a time. Oops. So pressing them up and back, making sure this fold is lined up. And then the second one should be a little bit easier to do. So there's one. And then I'm going to push this in. Oops, trying not to get too much of a gluey finger. And then same thing again. I'm just lining, kind of lining the corners up. Seems to make it easier. And then you can kind of press and then just give a big press. And now that I look at it, I probably should have, so just kind of keep this in mind, I probably should have put my sentiment down here a little bit, and I think I'm going to nip a few of these off. So again, I hadn't made one of these, because this one's getting a little crazy. It's driving me nuts, and this one I'm going to take off. Oops. There you go. But you can see in there, sending a big smile. I probably should have located that sentiment a little bit better, but I do still think it's very cute. It's really cute. It really isn't terrifically difficult because, again, you don't have to really add this outside if you don't want, but I kind of wanted it to be a little bit fancier, like you're looking into the jungle, which is what I was kind of going for on this card, you know, like he was hiding. So I think this is a cute comparison to like him hiding in the thing. So sending a big smile. You could also put like happy birthday on the outside if you wanted to do that. So there is one. Now for the second card, I didn't die cut any of this stuff ahead of time, so we're going to have to do that. That's the only thing. And I thought it would be kind of fun if instead of just doing like a rectangle, that we did something different. So I actually did this one with the largest stitched nested die. But what I did, you can see, is that I only did this partially, okay? So you could do one of two things. You can either run this through. You would probably have to line it up very specifically and just make sure you don't cut it, which isn't a problem. So we could line this up just like this. And then make sure that your cutting plate stops here. Or if you wanted to, and we'll do this one just for simplicity reasons, you could run it through your trimmer. So we'll do that. We're going to just cut this. So same exact measurements. I did use Melon Mambo in this one instead. So what I'm going to do is just kind of line this up so I can see where my cutting is there. It does look pretty even. So this is the nice part about being able to move this back and forth. This is scoring in case you're new, and the dark one is cutting. So I'm going to move this up. So what I'm doing is I'm just making sure I really hold it in place, and I'm looking for the bottom of my cut. And then I'm just going up. And you can always cut short, but you can kind of feel it click when it cuts. So this one is just the teeniest bit. And if you want to, you could always hit that with your snips. But you can see, fell out just like that. So you could always use this for another sentiment. Same with the rectangle piece you cut out. You could always use this for something. You could even use these together and then stamp a fun greeting on there with white and put this together as a really fun color card. So that will be our card here. And again, I already have both sides, so the front and the back, okay? This is the middle piece. This is the part we're going to decorate. So same thing. Instead of maybe doing this, what we could do is we could stamp our flamingo and then color him in. We could stamp him in the color and then add that to it. We could stamp this one and then put the little die cut one on the front, which might be cute. So let's do that. I think that'll be a good idea. So what we're going to do is we're going to stamp our flamingo, and we will do him in, let's make him a little bit lighter. So we'll stick with Flirty Flamingo. This is also, remember we used this one the other week. Well, I should say it was a couple weeks ago, and it was kind of a card that I really didn't love that much when I was finished with it, but we had the vines. You could even have the vines hanging down on this card too if you wanted to. So lots of fun options. So what I'm going to do is I'm inking him in the Flirty Flamingo, and then I'm going to take my basic gray, and I'm just going to add a little bit of touches to kind of his knees, a little bit to the feet, and a little bit to the beak, and just a teeny bit if I can get it to the eye. All right, so I'm just exhaling onto this. And he doesn't need to be necessarily in the center, so we'll kind of off-center him a little bit. Hey, Kathy. All right, so he looks pretty good. A little bit more vivid than I expected, but that's okay. So we have him. We might as well add some of the other stuff here. We have the water. And, oop, that's a little too small. Grab a little bit bigger of a block. So we'll put him in the water, and let's do Seaside Spray. Actually, you know what? I'm going to save the Seaside Spray. Let's do Pretty Peacock, and I'm going to show you why, because we do need a little bit of background something to this. So just kind of have him sitting there. We'll just do some other little water squiggles as if something were coming in from the side. And then what I'm going to do, let me close this. I don't know why I left that one open. Is I'm going to grab my blending brush, and I'm going to do this with Seaside Spray. And I know I just stamped this, so the ink on the bottom might be a little bit wet, so just be gentle when you're doing this. This Seaside Spray is a really light color, though, so it doesn't really give you a whole lot. You can really stretch it to be water and sky, which is great. So I'm going to kind of steer away from going over top of the flamingo. That way he's at least a little bit more pink. And I'm just going to do a really light. So we have a little bit heavier here in the water. But I'm not re-inking again before I do the sky. And again, trying not to go on top of the pink body. And then if we wanted to add a little bit more, I'll do a little teeny bit of Pretty Peacock at the very, very bottom. Kind of right in that section where he's standing. There we go. That's good. Don't want it to be too much. So you could definitely stamp your little fronds hanging down if you wanted to in the background. We'll at least do one. Just because I kind of feel like with that other card, I have to redeem myself a little bit. It was a little too goofy for me, but let's go with Garden Green. Oh, I always forget this is the one that has the little broken thing. I need to order a new one, or else that's going to end up like all over the place. I could just feel it. Just going to kind of off. Maybe one over here. There you go. Just so it's not too much. Let me close this gently so I don't ruin my card. There we go. Okay, so same thing when you're doing this. Think about this before we get too crazy with ourselves, because we only have this piece here. So now at this point, maybe you might have wanted to go with the rest or cut this down a little bit lower. If you wanted to, you could certainly do that. You could always go back. So you can, I know this sounds silly, but you could always go back and make your die cut. What I did is I did partial die cutting. So when I ran this through, I ran it through like this. It was very tight because of the size of it, because I hadn't folded it yet. But you could always go down even a little bit lower if you wanted to. Just remember, though, you're going to have to recut that little piece out. So I'm going to just leave it as is, and this will be a learning experience. We could either not use this or use a larger piece in the next time when we do this card. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit to the outside. So we'll add our sentiment out here. And let's see, we can go with, how about hope your day is as amazing as you are. That's a beautiful one. And I'm going to stamp that in black, just so it really stands out. So I'm going to go with Memento. Oops, that is not inked well whatsoever. Oh, and look, that was a nice piece too. Ooh, well. That had some adhesive sheet on the back. Live and learn, right? Let me see. Okay. All right, so there is that. Other thing you could do if you wanted to, because you do have some other stuff. We could take this flower scene, and I'm going to do this just to show you. I'm going to move these guys to the side. My flower. And I'm going to go a little bit lighter with this. So we'll go with, let me try, nah, Blushing Bride's going to be too light. I think I'm going to have to stick with Flirty Flamingo since it's mango. So Flirty Flamingo. I'm just trying to give this just a little something extra. So we'll stamp this down here at the bottom. Again, if it goes to the side, it's fine. It's not going to hurt anything. Kind of bring it stamped off and up around if you wanted to. It's not too much, which is kind of why I like it, because it gives you a little bit of something, but it's not overwhelming. Okay. So I don't want to do too much because I feel like sometimes I get completely carried away with this and then it just ends up not looking nice. So I'm going to go ahead and die cut this. And I'm going to do this with I think it should fit in this stitched shape. Let's see. That one should fit in there. It looks really tight, but usually it fits just barely. So I'm just kind of making sure it's centered. I'm going to run this through. Hi, Cindy. Hope you're well. Okay. Oh, look. Fit perfectly. It's just sometimes you have to have faith that it's going to fit. I know that sounds truly insane, but I've stamped so many things over sometimes and they really didn't need to be. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to put this in. And, oh, you know what? One thing I forgot I wanted to do. So this is going to go into our card back here. I wanted to die cut that one other little flamingo to put on the front. So let me do that. So it's just the little one here. And I'm going to put this on the outside. So I'm going to do that in Flirty Flamingo. And I'm going to do the other wing as well. Just that way it's a little bit lighter. So I think this piece should fit. Yep, perfectly. Now run these two through. Again, this time I'm not going to do these with the adhesive sheet. We'll just do them plain. That way we can see how to put it on without having to use that. Also, we'll spare you the having to add the embossing buddy to kind of cut down on the non-sticky part that you don't want to stick. Okay, so if you want, same thing again, you can go ahead in, this is basic gray, and you can kind of give him like that little dark spot to his knees, maybe a little bit on the feet. Not a lot, just a little bit on the beak. Okay, and I'm gonna put his wing on. If I can locate where I put my dimensionals, here they are. I'm going to pop this up. And before I do that, Is that? Yep, that's it. Okay. I thought there was a another little stamp I could add, but I'm thinking it's the other die cut. So we're just going to put this wing on. You could always sponge these too if you wanted to add a little extra dimension. All right, so I'm going to add my adhesive. Where did she escape to? Oh, heavens. I'm going to add my tear and tape. And then I will fold on my score lines, then fold my other score lines, and then add the adhesive. And I'm actually going to add a little bit bigger of a bead this time just to see if it helps with the positioning. So I do always like to give that a really firm press. Okay, so we're going in and then out. And one other thing, because I know this doesn't have a ton of room on it, if you feel like this is not enough card or enough spot for note, what you can always do too is you can even add another piece to the back and write your note. What I would suggest though, so you could have another panel on the back side, but I would write your note before you stick it on, okay? So that's always another fun addition that you can do. So we're gonna put this on the inside. Just wanna make sure this is fairly nicely centered. It's kind of almost, I guess, like a diorama card, right? You guys remember making those back in the day in school? All right, so I have that one. And then I'm going to do the same to this one. And then fold this one out. So again, all you do with these is you score them that at a 1/2 inch and an inch on each side. And this one got a little wonky because the way I ran it through the die cutting machine when I cut that. So it's a little bit squirrely on the end there. So there's that. And then we're going to just put this together. And then we can add our other two pieces on the front once it's assembled. Okay, so I'm pulling this off. This is a really great fun fold card, but quite honestly, aside from the stamping, it's really not that fancy. I mean, the paper is pretty simple. You are using an entire sheet. That's probably the only thing. You do have to use a whole sheet of paper. But I kind of still think that it looks really cool put together, and it really doesn't seem like that much work to me. And I am usually one who likes to really make cards a whole lot extra. So let me see, goof this up. This one's a little weird because the way I ran that die cut through, like I said, I have this little extra ledge here on the lip. So that's kind of what I'm fighting with. And just pressing this. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold it closed and just make sure it's got a good hold. This one's being wonky. You know, I think this has to do with the fact of the way that die cut went through. It made it so sorry about that. Ooh, so sorry about that. I know it just cut out. I apologize for that. When you make this to maybe not do your die cut through a flat layer, you might want to actually fold your layers in when you do it. That way you don't get that ridge, because that ridge kind of threw my card off a little bit on this one. But anyway, so what we'll do is we'll add our little dude to the front, and then we'll add our thing here. So I'm just going to put these on with liquid glue. Put a little bit here. Oh my gosh, I put that on the wrong side. Oh, Blondie. Go like that. Go like that. There's one. And I'm going to put this guy. And I don't want to put him too far over, because remember, we do want to make sure this fits. So I'm going to make sure he goes over just a little bit more. So I'm going to try to glue this half right here. There you go. But again, this should fit into a regular envelope, okay? So probably could have also, you know what I'm going to do just a little bit. I want to put a teeny bit on the feet. I grabbed the wrong one. Sorry, that one was the wrong glue. Just a little bit. Just in case they have a connection there so we can do it. Yeah, that'll be better. But super, super cute. Again, truly not that difficult, and they will stand up. So let me make sure. This should be that it fits. So you fold this down. This one, like I said, the measurement was a little weird, so in case it doesn't fit, I don't want to push my luck with that one, but it should fit. You do have to fold it down, but it fits into a regular. Now, one thing, it is a little bit fatter, so you might need a little extra, like the 1 extra ounce stamp, but it does fit in there, so that's nice. And then when they pull it out, it should stand right up like so, just like that. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I thought it was rather fun, completely unplanned, and 2 other great ideas in case you don't have Oh Snap. And I still have 1 gator left to work with. This is the one that I actually did. So in case you missed this again, I did do this the other day with the ink blending brushes, and I made these 2. So Flirty Flamingo, or Flirty, geez, Friendly Flamingo would be great. And I also think this would make a really fun card with the kangaroo stamp set. So if you're looking for ideas that maybe you don't necessarily have for some of your stamp sets, like you bought it and you loved it, but now you're like, why did I buy this again? Now you have some other ideas. These are really, really easy. Again, in case you missed the measurements, because it is going to take me a little bit to post all these measurements to my blog, but these base pieces are 6 1/4 by 5 1/2. The 6 1/4 is the long side, and you scored a 1/2 inch and 1 inch on each side. And then they will fit into a standard envelope. The piece behind the panel on the inside, this one we use the Oso Ombre paper. This one we use basic white, and that measured 4 by 5 1/4, so it fits in there perfectly. You could add lots of other stuff to this, and if you wanted to, you could even add the panel on the back to be able to add an additional grading. So super, super fun. Again, I don't think it's too complicated of a fun fold, but it does really give a lot of wow. It just kind of depends on what you want to add to it. And quite honestly, I really like the shape of this because it kind of looks like you're in like an old-fashioned, I don't even know what they would call them back then, but something like, I don't want to say like a zoo, but like a botanical garden, looking at this with the shape. I think I probably wish it was a little bit smaller and maybe a tad wider, but you know, you can't have everything, right? So I'm just going to check one more time just to make sure I don't have any messages that I missed here. I do apologize for that little blip in the middle. I forgot to turn my phone onto airplane mode, so sorry about that. But let's see. You're watching on a different device, you can't comment. Oh, that was so nice. Thanks, Debbie. Thank you for doing that. Thank you, everybody, for the shares. I do appreciate all the shares. I'll put this down so you can see it a little better while I'm reading through these. And we are doing very well here. We just had another bit of snow, so it'll be above freezing. Woohoo! That's awesome. And the sun is coming out, I heard, in Texas. I heard... oh my goodness, I can't think of her what her name is, but Pink Buckaroo was saying that you can deal with 106, but you can't deal with below 6 and no water, which I totally understand. If you missed any of this, it will go by for the replay, so you can certainly watch again. It is a pretty simple card to do. We'd use Melon Mambo for this one, and this one was Granny Apple Green, and then the shaded spruce were the palms, which I love this. Tranquil Dies, I bought them just for this. It's not my favorite for the stamp set part of it, but I love the dies. They are so, so worth it. Totally reminds me of something you would find in Florida with the Golden Girls, which is 100% honest of why I bought it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your weekend, and I'll see you again next week.